Hey guys, today we got a pretty special video because we have the SnapMaker 2.0 model number A350T, and this is a 3-in-1 3D printer, laser engraver, and CNC carver. So in this video we're going to unbox it, set it up, and check out the multi-functions that it has. Hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get started. So this is the SnapMaker 2.0, and this being the A350 version makes it the larger one. This is the box that it comes in. It's not too large, but is pretty heavy at about 45-50 pounds. And the side of the box says, "Make something wonderful." And also there was another protective layer around with straps for the shipping. So here on the top, you guys probably can't see well, but it says, "Welcome to the SnapMaker family." All right. So it does feel a bit more special, and I can see that we need to flip around. And this is what we see on top. So we got dark soft foam, and on top of the first layer we have the quick start guide, and it's a pretty thick book, and it's in the protective plastic. So that's our first layer. So next layer we have 4 boxes that look like this, and these are the linear modules, which are the motors that are built into the frame or the channels. I guess I misspoken. There is actually 5 of them. So yeah, that's a bunch of motors. And let's go ahead and pull one out real quick so we can take a peek at it. So yeah, very nicely packed. And you guys can see this is like a whole module with the frame and all the inner workings of the stepper motors and lead screws inside. And the way this printer works is everything is controlled by these modules here. And at the end we have plugs that communicate with the brains, which by the way is a digital kind of communication like a CAN bus. Very nice. And we have 5 of these. So I'm going to tip this over so you guys can see a little better, but look how nicely everything's packed. And everything has a picture of what's inside of that particular box. So I'm just going to quickly pull them out. Here we have the filament. We're going to open up each one and check it out in a second. The power module, touch screen and controller, tools and accessories, and the 3 tool heads themselves. So below that we have a few more boxes, and by the way, these 2 side pieces technically should come out because it says take this out first, as I guess it's easier to grab the parts inside. But we have the work platform, adapters and brackets, and a cable box. So here are the 2 smaller ones and the larger one. And just when you think that's everything, there's something else here on the very bottom. And this is quite a large piece. So yeah, and that is everything for the box. Very well individually packed and well protected. So let's get this out of the way. And we're going to bring back all of the pieces and see how big of a stack we have. And so this is everything that was in the box. Again, extremely impressed with the packaging and how everything is presented. So let's start by opening up the manual. So we do get a couple SnapMaker stickers and our quick start guide, which is a pretty thick book and looks like fully colored in this really high quality paper. So yeah, when you buy SnapMaker, you really get the best of the best when it comes to presentation. So let's see here. So we got the breakdown of before you start, machine assembly, 3D printing, laser, and CNC. So yeah, it kind of goes through some safety precautions here, things like that. Our parts list, the tools included, and some material pieces. And they do have some video tutorials you can watch online. And here we have the machine assembly. All right, well, yeah, looks like this is a pretty involved kind of process, which should be fun, of 24 steps. Pretty excited to get started here building it. So yeah, and then we go into our tool heads and how to use them and things like that. So yeah, very great detailed quick start guide that's pretty thorough. All right, so we've seen the linear modules, which are 20mm, 300mm strokes. So let's go ahead and take them all out of the box. And there are 5 of them, so quite a few to unbox. So let's check out this power module. So this is like the power supply for the whole system. So yeah, very clean. We got some venting here, looks like. The logo. And on the bottom, we got some rubber feet. And this is a 24 volt, 320 watts power supply. And on the back here, we got the venting fan, connection port, the input power port, and the off and on switch. Very nicely designed and high quality piece here. So this box has the touchscreen and controller. Again, very nicely packed. So the controller is like a module that you plug everything into, and then it distributes where everything goes. It's kind of like a large junction box, and yeah, very nicely constructed again. And that's definitely going to be the theme of this printer, as everything's going to feel high quality and metal. And also it says make something wonderful. And here we have the touchscreen display, which looks very nice. It's quite thin. Also very nicely built. The quality is just superb on all these parts. The cable is hard connected to the screen and then plugs with the USB Type-C on the other end and can stretch. And also there's a mount that's magnetic. You can see the two little magnets that this thing connects to once we install it all. So here we have a box that says cables, and this just has our different kind of cables that we'll need. The power cord looks like about 4 feet or so, a USB cable, and another interconnecting cable. So here we have a box that says adapters and brackets, and these are really nicely made pieces for the assembly to the printer, and this is quite interesting. So it looks like some kind of little junction box that plugs in one and then two come out on the other end. Everything is extremely high quality and built and presented like I've never seen before. So here's our box that has the 3 tool heads, which comprises of a 3D printing head, laser head, and CNC. So let's go ahead and take a quick look. This is how they're packed. So here we have the 3D printing module, and it is very high quality. It's all metal. This is where our filament goes in. Connection. There's a little door here. Venting on the sides. This is what the back looks like. More venting on the other side. And on the bottom, we can see our heat block, the nozzle, and then the cooling fan duct that blows underneath, and also a little sensor for the auto leveling. Very nice. So yeah, very high quality, great looking piece, and it's not too heavy surprisingly, but feels very solid as it is all metal. Here we have a piece that's a bit heavier, and this is the CNC machine. Yeah, this is basically a motor that spins really quick, and you put a tool to carve. And yeah, this thing's built the same way as the print head. On the top it connects. Yeah, very robust, and this one's quite a bit heavier, as I'm guessing the motor in there is pretty heavy duty, which is nice to see. And for the last module, we have the laser, and this one's quite a bit lighter, and it is a 1600 milliwatt powered laser. Got a little danger sticker here. The laser itself is in here, and what's interesting is it looks like we got some kind of sensor or camera of some sort, or at least that's what it appears to be. We'll see. But yeah, pretty much built the same way. We got the plug up here. Yeah, very nice again for these tool heads. I'm gonna move this out of the way. So here we have a pretty large box of tools and accessories, and there's actually a toolbox in here with a bunch of things inside, hardware and stuff like that. And then we got goggles, and we'll open this up a little later in the video. Let's go ahead and see what kind of filament we got. It is a full roll, which is very nice. So I guess it says right here black PLA. Even the filament is nestled in foam here, and actually is SnapMaker branded. Love it that they include a whole kilogram of filament to get you started. All right, so we got a couple more large boxes left. This one says work platform, 3D printing, CNC, and laser. And all of the different pieces that you need to work with the different tool heads. So on the top here we have, looks like some stuff inside. Sure enough, we get a few things like a little SnapMaker cloth, looks like, for cleaning maybe the screen. A couple calibration cards, like little pieces of paper, and this is probably good for setting your offset on the nozzles. And then we get a piece of acrylic and also a piece of wood. So the acrylic could be used for the engraving and the wood for a lasering, and there's a couple pieces of these. So as you guys can see, you get everything you need to get started. So the large platform appears to be the actual 3D printed bed, and look how large that is, guys. And this is a 320 by 350 by 330 tall volume that you can print. This is what the back of it looks like. So it looks like we got a bunch of magnets and a sensor here, and I'm assuming that this is probably heated, but we'll find out. And so this upper portion actually comes off, and it is the same on both sides, which is really cool. So you can use one or the other. And it's pretty flexible, so it's like a steel sheet. And this is the piece below, which does appear to be heated. I see these are the elements. It does have a heat picture here. So yeah, very nice, high quality parts here, and very impressive. So below that, we have looks like part of something, unless this might be the frame. That's kind of what it looks like, but lightweight, looks like cast aluminum, very nicely built. And going even deeper there, we have another build platform, also looks like connects to our build frame. Yeah, I guess you can interchange the bed to serve the different purposes going between the 3D printing and CNC. And the last piece in this box is some aluminum channels, and they're pretty thin, almost look like heat sinks, and there's 4 of them, and so this is used for laser. So yeah, they kind of go together and make a whole build plate. Yeah guys, the amount of attention to detail on this SnapMaker is just incredible. So that's everything for this box. And so the last piece is this really thin base platform. Wow, check this thing out guys, it is huge. Again, looks like casted aluminum, and we have manufacturing label here, and wow, check this thing out, a beautiful piece. And we got a SnapMaker logo here, so it looks like we mount everything to this main bottom plate. Very cool. And that is everything with the unpacking. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean up here a bit, organize all these parts, and we'll start putting it together. So I moved a few things around, but I realized we still need to check out what's in here. So we got the toolbox, and here we have goggles, and that's gonna be darker ones for the laser and clear ones for the CNC. And these look nice and high quality, full size goggles. Very nice to see that safety is included. So here we have a toolbox. Underneath the toolbox, there's actually, looks like a kit for clamping things down, and this is a really nice parts here. They're all aluminum. Yeah, again, very impressive with everything that's included with this printer. So let's quickly look what's in this box, and I don't know how quickly we can do that as there's quite a few things in there. So here I got all the bags that looks like are hardware, and they're all labeled, and there's quite a few of them, as you guys can see. So yeah, this is definitely going to be quite involved of putting this thing together. So it looks like we get an extra hot end key block and nozzle tip, some snippers. Very nice. It's crazy how everything is individually packed. And here we have a little spatula, and this is good to kind of get under the nozzle and maybe even pry like a print off or something. But yeah, very nice little spatula. We also get some tweezers that could be useful. A couple open-ended wrenches, and these are really nice quality. Got a 14 and a 17. Kind of curious what these are for. Okay, so it looks like some kind of dividers maybe. So yeah, I think that's what that is, and they actually go here in the toolbox. You can divide different sections between each other. So this one here is probably your most important tool, because this is the screwdriver or the driver and the tool that you will use to put this thing together. Very nice piece. It's aluminum finished, and yeah, just a beautiful thing. And on the bottom looks like we have, okay, yeah, we have the tips there, the different sizes. Super impressive, guys, for all this stuff that's included with this printer. Here we also have something interesting. Okay, so it's just a Velcro here to organize cables. A little bracket to something. Here we have a tube, looks like CNC part, collect a nut. Okay, so this is kind of like the chuck that bites the bit, which also comes with 2 bits for cutting and carving. So yeah, very cool. And the last thing here is we got a USB thumb drive that's in its own little case here. And it's nice and chrome, very premium feeling. So yeah, that is everything in this toolbox. So I'm gonna organize some of this stuff and we'll start putting it together. All right, so let's open the quick start guide. We'll go to page 14, which is our first step in the assembly. And so we're gonna start with this main plate and install the 4 rubber feet on each corner. And here it tells us what bolts we need, which is the M410. And that's actually a packet that has everything we need with the feet and the bolts. All right, so let's flip this main plate around and install the 4 rubber feet on each corner. So yeah, very impressed with this screwdriver, and we can find the bit that we need, pull it out, install it, and it's all magnetic at the bottom back in. Put our bolt on there, and we'll start our first foot here. So these are compressed style feet, so the harder you tighten, the more it compresses. So once it gets pretty tight, just go a little more and that should be enough. You don't want to over compress the piece of rubber. So that's our second one, third, and the last one here. All right, that was very simple. For the next step, we need to grab 2 20mm linear rails, and these are going to be our y-axes. So after that, they want us to align the sliding brackets so they're even, and I think we can move this piece for now. if we set them down like this, you guys can see that they sort of line up, or these are close, except this one needs to go down a little bit. So we can just go ahead and push that down and it moves around. And all you're trying to do is just kind of squish them together while they're both sitting flat, so they're pretty much right where they need to be. And this is just so it's easier to line them up later to the frame. And speaking about the frame, you're going to need this piece next. And so that takes us to step 4, which we're going to combine these together. And there's a note here making sure that you got this piece here right side up. And also we're going to need 8 M4 8 bolts. So to know the correct way is if you look at the bottom, you can kind of see like this nut there that's threaded into this casted frame, and all of the little nuts need to go up, and this running horizontally, and the rest should be symmetrical. So with our cables going out, we're going to line up right here on the frame. Let's grab our M4 8 bolts. There's going to be 2 of them on each side of the channel. So try to tighten this as hard as you can because we don't have much leverage here with this kind of screwdriver. So don't be afraid to go really tight. And yeah, our first one's on. Let's go ahead and put our second one same way. All right, this is what we got. So for step 5, we're going to take the base where we put the rubber feet on and set it on top of these channels. And according to this picture, we can see that the cutout or the handle part goes to the back with the wires. And also there's a note down here to make sure that the linear rails sit flushly inside the grooves of the base. And we're going to need 16 M4 8 bolts. So let's put these wires to the back and grab our base. So this cutout here goes towards the wiring, and this should sit right on top and kind of fall in. So it has to go into the grooves for it to work. If you lined up your channels closely, everything should line up. So if it doesn't, you can try to, move them back and forth because they do still move. So if you do need to move one, you can just push it linear rail here while holding the bottom and it will move back and forth. So yeah, now we got a bunch of bolts, well, 8 on each rail here that go from the top down, and it's the same M4 8s. So yeah, if you love putting things together, this is a really fun machine to do that with, as it's kind of like a, I guess you can call it Lego set or something like that. Not hard to understand what goes where. So again, try to snug this up as hard as you can. All right, so we got one in. Let's do the other one. All right, and maybe I can raise this up so you guys can see a little better of where we put all these bolts. So yeah. So for step 6, they want us to tighten the y-axis bracket bolt. I kind of show you a picture here of what they're talking about, but I mean, we already tightened them, but you can reach them through the bottom here. There's holes, and we do have to move it a little bit to line it up there. Well, maybe a lot more. So once the holes kind of line up with these bolts here, probably go just a little more. We can go through here and tighten them up more, which honestly, they're already tight. But if you want to double check that, you can on all 8 of them. And this is actually a good thing that they show you this, because if you ever need to retighten them later because they got loose, you know how to do that by going from underneath. All right, so let's flip this guy around. And now we're really starting to look like we got something here. So for step 7, we'll be installing support brackets right here on the frame on the back. And they are in the adapters and brackets box, which are these right here. So this is the front, and then this is the back, and the brackets will sit like this. So the flat part towards where our other linear motor will connect. And so we're using the same M4 8 bolts, and there are 4 of them that go through the bottom into here. I'm gonna prop this up a bit with some filament and take my tool off so it's shorter and start them on there. So you can do it any way you want. Maybe going off the edge of the table might be the best, but I just want to run them down by hand, and then I can tip it over without worrying about the bracket falling off and snug it up underneath. And there we go. So now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So yeah, so far really enjoying this assembly, as all the parts are high quality and everything gives you a really good vibe. And so for step 8, we're going to be installing the little bracket that holds the screen here on the front right corner. And that's this piece here, and it mounts with 2 bolts that go again from the bottom up, and they are M4 8s. So I'm going to prop this up again because it makes it so much easier. Do the same thing I did with the other ones. And just like that, our screen holder bracket is on. All right, so for the next part, we're going to be installing more linear modules, and these say 8mm, which go on the base like this. So the wire goes underneath the bracket, and then they butt against the bracket. And this is looking at the back here. And there's going to be 6 bolts that go through the bracket into the module. What's interesting is on mine, all of them are 20mm, I believe. Well, actually, no, there is an 8, and our other one is also 8. The 20s go on the bottom, and then the x-axis. The z-axis are the 8s. So let's put this 20 back over here, and let's see if we can turn sideways here. But yeah, the module sits right here with the wire going underneath here, down, and then our connection point is going to face to the front. So this is the back, and that's the front. So let's go ahead and feed the wire through first, and then set the channel down there. And we're using the same M48 bolts, and 6 of them to be exact. That'll go through this bracket into the module. So yeah, run them all down first and then go back and tighten them up. Yeah, again, I loved how the instructions are very simple and picture orientated. So it's not hard to figure out where everything goes. All right, now we can snug them all up as tight as you can with this driver. So that one's done. Let's do this other one. So we're going to feed the cable through, and it's going to come out the bottom. And then the channel will sit right here. And snug them all up. All right. Both of our Z-axis modules are on. Well, I spoke too soon, because on the next step, which is 11, we're going to put 4 bolts underneath in the same Z-axis modules, which are also the M48s. And so it might have been better to leave everything loose, as it might need to move around a bit. But for mine here, it looks like it's perfect anyway. So I'm going to prop this up again, which makes it a lot easier to work on. And that's one side. And now we can do the other the same way. And we are done. So now we got a really rigid Z-axis. All right, so for next part, we need to push the bed or the work platform all the way to the front. And so there's a little diagram showing you here not to do it from the sides, but push in the middle. And basically all they want us to do is just literally from the middle, push the whole build platform forward. Just like that. And don't be too hasty, just kind of moderately all the way to the front. And the reason for that is because we're going to be installing our x-axis to the Z, and it's also going to mount with the same M48 bolts, and there's 4 on each side. So looking at the back, and I'm not sure if this is the best way to show you, but I guess we can flip it around if we need to. We're going to grab our new module with the wire going that way and the bracket to the front, so like this, and we're going to set down right on top of these channels. I'm going to go ahead and move this piece here to the middle so we can kind of go back and forth here. And so what we need to do is move these down to where they need to go also. So we're just going to lightly push on them, as you guys can see there. So don't go crazy fast. These are not meant to go super fast. And this is quite important that you go all the way down, because you want this to be lined up perfectly and not, off on one side. And then so on the channels, there's going to be the outer bolts that connect to most outer bracket on both sides. And again, the same M48 bolts. I'm going to spin this sideways. So what you want to do is you want to go through the inner hole of the bracket. So not the most outer, but the inner. So we're just going to start it, and don't tighten it at all. You want it to be loose. And now we need to go to the other side and raise this up, and we can also go to the inner hole there, and that's how you start the channel. So you want to start it like that way it hangs flat, and then we can put the rest of the bolts in everywhere they go. So on the inside, they're actually on the outer hole farther away from the channel. And our last bolt here, snug everything up really good, and that should secure our x-axis. So apparently we weren't supposed to tighten all of the screws on this bracket, but everything was machined perfectly, so it didn't seem to matter. But that's the next 2 steps, tightening everything up. And then we need to lift the x-axis all the way up so we can start working on our next step, which is installing some cables with the splitter. So in the adapters and brackets box, we got the 2 splitters, and they're pretty much both the same. What we're going to do is we're going to plug both of our y-axis modules into one end, and then the other end is going to go out to the controller. And the splitter itself will mount right here. And these cutouts is where the cables will come in. And also the box that had the main controller or splitter also has 3 cables that are labeled Z and Y, and one is just blank. And we're going to need the Y one, which will be the output from here. So let's go ahead and run these cables. So I'm going to prop this up. Looks like I'm going to need 2 of them here. So we're gonna run these under and then out the hole towards the middle more. And you probably wanna keep these little rubber bands that hold wires together because we will need to cable manage everything. And then our Y cable will go through here and the other end to the controller later. So we can go ahead and plug it all in, or we can go ahead and mount it and then plug it in, but I guess I'm gonna go ahead and plug it. So it's pretty simple. And just like that, now we can mount it right here. I guess we'll do wire management a bit later once we install everything. And so for step 18, we're gonna need 4 M430 bolts, which are a little bit longer. And that's how we're gonna secure the splitter down to the base. And it's kind of interesting how the bolts hold it down, as they just kind of tighten on the top. But we don't need to go tight on these at all, just barely snug. And that is it. We got our splitter on. So for step 19, we're pretty much doing the same thing. Now it's the Z-axis. So these two cables here that come out at these ends, and we'll have another splitter here. So we're gonna grab the Z wire, the other splitter, run the Z wires again through this hole here. Same way, plug them in. And then the output, go through the front one. And now we can mount it here, right next to the other one with the same 430 bolts. And that's it. And then the X and Y wires will feed out this hole from the bottom this way. And before we do that, let's go ahead and flip this thing on its side and see if we can clean up all these wires, as I feel like right now would be a better time to do it than later. So let's go ahead and put these through, the Y and Z's. So there's no easy solution for this. If you want to, you can unplug them and kind of bunch them up and then put the rubber band on it. But yeah, technically not any kind of elegant solution under here. So yeah, I'm just gonna play around with them a bit, kind of get them shorter, and we'll flip it around and go to the next step. All right, so that looks much better. So I don't think this part matters too much, but it does look a little nicer when it's tidy. And also, if you do have some zip ties, that might be a lot easier just to zip tie everything. And actually guys, I just realized that you could probably use this Velcro tie to also help you out. And what's cool about this is that you can cut them in pieces. It all kind of sticks to itself when you go in a circle. So yeah, you could probably make 3 or 4 out of this. And also guys, I just realized that the two main cables, the Z and the Y, actually need to go that way towards the screen or the right side of the printer if you're looking at it up front. There we go. And that looks all nice right there. Now we can flip over. Going to the right side of the printer is where our cables will be coming out. And also you guys can see here from the top, our X-axis cable comes out on this side too. That's because our main module mounts right here on the back side. And that's gonna be step 21. And you guys can see where that mounts, which is on the lowest threads here. And again, we're gonna need 4 M430 bolts, and it'll go right there. So yeah guys, this thing is quite enjoyable to build so far and quite rewarding. All right, so that's on. So for step 22, we're gonna plug in the X, Y, and Z connections. On the picture, it shows it's the third one down. And so the first one is X, which is gonna be this upper one, which plugs right here. Okay, so I just realized that I ripped this thing out. It's supposed to hold itself. See if I can put it back. Yeah, so when you pull these out, be careful not to pull it too hard because you'll completely rip out the little plug here. We're just gonna open 3. So from the 2 top, then we got 1, 2, 3, which is X, Y, and Z. So this is our X, and then Y, just labeled, the next one down, and then Z after that. Just like that. So step 23 is going to be plugging in our screen, which plugs in on the very bottom of our module. So let's go ahead and install it. And it is a USB-C connection, and maybe you guys can see, but we got quite a few little plugs here. So we got USB-C, USB, they're kind of together, and the other kind of USB. So there's quite a few options here, but this one goes here in the USB-C plug. And just like that. And the last step, which is 24, is going to be connecting our power supply. And the cables to that is in the cable box, which is this one here. And if you guys look at it, the pins are different on this than the rest of them, which they're symmetrical, indicating that this is the power cable. And also we have our regular plug for the power supply. So let's go ahead and plug this cable in. And it's going to be the first one from the bottom where the USB ports are. Let's flip the printer around and grab our power supply. And on the back, you guys can see the plug where the other end will go. And then our power cable will go here. And then we can set our power supply here somewhere next to the printer. Push this back a bit. And that's the basic assembly of the structure. Now we're not done because we still need to choose a platform and also choose a tool head up here. So I'm going to start with the 3D printing. And so we'll need this platform here, which is the heated bed and the build plate on top of that. And if we look here, we can see there's quite a bit of bolts that we have to install onto the frame. And so there's threads in the frame that bolts will go through and hold this thing down. And it lines up perfectly. And so since we're doing 3D printing, we can go to the 3D printing section, which is the next one over. And here it's gonna show us what we should do next. So I guess it's starting with the tool head and then eventually going to the bed and also a filament holder we need to install also. So let's just go by the directions here since it'll make more sense. And we'll install the print head first, which is this module here. And by the way, I didn't show you guys, but if you click this one way, the whole door opens and you can see kind of the heat brake and the extruder gear there with the idler on this side, and it's on a spring. And to put it back, you just push over the pin on the right side and then kind of click it in and move it over and it locks it in. So yeah, the whole print head extruder assembly will mount here. Flip around, you guys can see a little better where it goes, but you're going to need 4 M48 bolts, which will secure the print head to the X-axis module. And if you guys can see, it mounts on the outer holes towards the bottom. And on the bottom, they're more towards the top on the outer holes. But you can see where the threads are and line them up. All right. So now we need to grab an interconnecting cable. And you can tell that it is by the diagonal kind of pins. And we're going to plug it up here, right on the print head. And then from there, it's going to go to this side where our module is and plug into the very top. And on the manual there, they show you a picture that you want to put the cable behind the channel here, not in front of it like underneath. So kind of like over and around. So for the next part, we're going to be installing the spool holder, which goes on the other side away from the module. So going this way on the back. And the bracket that we need is this one right here with also this pin looking holder. So we're going to need an M410 bolt, just one. And we're going to install the metal holder into the bracket through this top hole, just like that. And then you're going to need 2 more M410 bolts, and we're going to mount it right here on these 2 threads on the very top, just like that. And I'm just going to go ahead and go all the way up with this, and we're going to tighten them up right here. So now you can put your filament on the spool here, and then it'll run to the feed port. All right, so we're done up here. Let's go down to our build plate, and we're going to install it onto the frame with a bunch of M410 little bolts that have like a taper on them. And we're going to need 22 of them. And this is the baggie, and I think we're going to need pretty much all of them. We're just going to line up the bed with the threads and then put a little bolt in each one. And there is a bunch of them. All right, so I've dropped in 22 of them and we actually got 3 extra. So now we need to go and tighten each one of them. I would recommend do the corners on the opposite end first before you tighten anything, or just run them down. That way it lines up, and then the rest of them should be perfect. If you want to run them down slightly and then go back and tighten them all, that would probably be the best thing. But either way, all these little bolts need to be tightened. And this is when I'm really appreciating this screwdriver, as this would take forever with a regular Allen wrench. All right, so now I'm just gonna go back and snug them all up, and that's it. And now we can put our magnetic build plate on, and it doesn't matter which side you use, and it magnetizes on there. All right, so yeah, we're done with that. The last thing we need to do is plug in the heated bed plug on the back, and that's gonna go right above the power port plug that goes to the power supply. Right there. Actually, guys, there's one more step, and it's this little bracket that holds the X-axis wire, and it mounts there on the channel. And I flipped the printer around, so we're looking at the back. And that's the bracket that was in the toolbox, this little guy here. And you're going to need 2 M48 bolts, and it mounts just like this with this piece pointing towards the back on the side here. So hopefully you guys can see that, but yeah, this is for the cable that goes to the hot end, and it actually will slot into there. And it keeps it from not getting tangled and whatnot else and sag, so kind of props it up. And so as this thing moves, the cable will be in the right place instead of dangling or hanging too low. So, and you can kind of adjust it, give it more or less. But if you go to the very side or to one end, you can kind of see how much you'll need. And now as it moves back and forth, it'll be good right there. All right, and so that pretty much completes our assembly and installation for the 3D printing. So for the next part, let's take a closer look at this pretty unique and very interesting machine. All right, so this is pretty much everything we have here with the SnapMaker 2.0. We got the laser with its build plate, the goggles, and the head. The CNC machining also comes with goggles, the chuck, the bits, and the head. And we have the 3D printing build platform installed on the machine at the moment. And you also get a full roll of filament, and I got black PLA here. The quick start guide, which is the manual for this thing, is incredible. So much detail and great pictures, extremely well put together, and just a very premium experience. So everything builds up from this base. We got 4 squishy rubber feet on each corner. Everything that looks like metal is metal. Some of them is cast and some of it's extrusions. So we got modules that run all of the axes, and there's a total of 5 of them, 2 on the Y, 2 on the Z, and 1 on the X. Really nice little touchscreen display that's removable, and it is magnetic. It sits in its own holder here. Very well built, and love the overall feeling of it. Let's go ahead and peel this protector off. So it is on a coiled cord, so you can kind of pull on it. And if we go on this side of the printer, we can see this is where our main brain is, where everything plugs in. So the top one's our tool head, and then we got an add-on, X, Y, Z, a couple more add-ons, heated bed, the power input, and below that we got USB options. Our power supply sits separately. The wire that comes out of it is pretty long, so you can put it on either side or even have it underneath somewhere. But the on and off switch is here, so you do need to have it where you can reach it. So this is what the printer looks like from the back. We got our 2 splitters, which is for the dual Z and Y. And our spool holder here, this is where it connects. And our filament will come from here into the hot end assembly. This wire here travels to a little clip here that kind of holds it out of the way. And this is our 3D printing tool head, which is easily removable with these 4 bolts and can be changed to CNC or laser. And you guys can see it's a really nice piece. And this door does open. That's how you access your extruder. And underneath we can see the key block, tip, fan shroud for cooling, and also our leveling sensor here. The work platform is large, and we have the 3D printing build platform on here. This is a nice and large flexible sheet, and it's actually the same on both sides, and it magnetizes to the aluminum heated bed, and the aluminum bed does connect through these little bolts everywhere, which you can replace with these other options. So I like how this is magnetic, very easy to pull it off, pop the models out, and then put it back on. And we do have a 320 by 350 by 330 tall build volume, so a very large work area. And over here I have a little calibration card, and this is going to be to set your gap between the nozzle and the bed. And also we have a USB thumb drive, which is in metal and looks really nice. And this is going to plug in on the very bottom. And this is how you can access your files through the screen. Now you do also have an option to connect this printer wirelessly, or you can hard connect it to a computer and control it like that. So yeah, I'm very impressed overall with the build quality, the materials, and everything that's included. And I am pretty excited to power this thing on and try the 3D printing. And if that goes well, we'll also try these other tool heads and see how they do. All right, so I got everything plugged in, and I think we're ready to power it on. I put the power supply on that side, so it's a little more room here for me. And I put my little plant on it, so let's go ahead and turn it on. And it blinks actually. I saw some lights coming out of here. And our display is powering on. Alright, so we got a little animation there, the SnapMaker. Now it looks like we're ready to set it up. So yeah, you guys can see on this power supply, we got a pretty unique light coming out of it. And it is pulsing in this kind of whitish color, I guess. Alright, so on the screen we have a little welcome menu here that says hello. So the first thing here, we need to choose our language, which is on English. We'll click next. Alright, so start. We got to agree to privacy policies and disclaimers, so we'll check that. Click agree. So we can rename our SnapMaker. Right now it's named Darth Moore. I guess let's go ahead and rename it just underscore print, which by the way is my new 3D printing channel. And I'm sure you guys can see, but yeah, we got a really nice keyboard here. It kind of feels like Apple product, honestly, the way it looks and responds. So we'll click save. So now it wants us to connect to Wi-Fi. So I think I'm going to skip this for now. Now, if you want to wirelessly control your printer, you definitely want to set this up. Kind of gives you a warning that some things might not work. So we'll go ahead and skip anyway. Now it's going through some safety instructions. And the first part here looks like is about calibrating the bed. So let's click on start. And sure enough, it's starting to move here. So it's kind of like a little tutorial that walks you through the setup. All right, and so we see that the Y is working, the X was working, and now the Z going all the way down. So this cable probably needs to be a little longer here. All right, that seems perfect. All right, so it just automatically starts taking the measurements of the bed. And we can see that here on the display. It's only doing a 3x3 though, which is interesting. All right, so it kind of went into this kind of pattern. Now it's at the middle. And it is finished with that. In the next part, we're going to set our gap. And for that, we're going to need this little leveling paper. But yeah, basically, we're just going to set the offset between the nozzle and the bed. As you can see here right now, my card is very loose. So we have increments we can choose from, 0.05, 0.1, and 0.5. So let's go down a bit. Actually, I need to go quite a bit more down. So I'm going to choose the 0.5. All right, close. Okay, that was too close. Let's go to 0.1. Now we can go down a little slower. Oh, I grabbed it. So now we're going to go 0.05 and go down very slow. Okay, so once you have a point where it grabs, you want to go up 1. And so it just kind of gives you like a slight drag between the nozzle and the bed. Now I might go up just a little more, just so I have practically no drag. Because this calibration card is really thin and the bed is not heated and the nozzle is not heated, so that probably will expand a little bit. But you will be able to adjust that later on also. So yeah, once you're happy with your gap, we're going to click on save. It looks like that's going to bring up our x-axis up there. And the next thing we're going to do is load the filament. So I'm going to use my own roll as we have this nice bright color, which we'll be able to see easier. And we're going to cut it on an angle. And so the spool goes here on the spool holder on the top, and then we're going to feed down into the extruder on the top here. So you can just stick it in there, and then we're going to click on next, and here it's saying that we're going to need to preheat the nozzle, which is going to go to 200, and you can adjust that right here on the display to go more or less. And it's preheating really quickly. So once it hits close to 200, it's going to give us the option to load and unload, the 2 buttons here. So we're going to click on load, and it's going to try to pull it in. And all we got to do is just kind of push down, and it's going to grab it. So it's actually pulling it down right now. Eventually, it's going to come out the bottom there, and we'll see it purge. Okay, so we got to push it again. Looks like it's only a certain amount that it pulls through. Okay, there we go. And eventually, we get our color coming out the end. And there we go. So we're preheated, we purged. Let's click on done. And it says that we have successfully completed the 3D printing setup. So let's click on got it. So a little warning popped up that we do have a software update available. We'll click on got it. And this looks like our main menu. So we can see the 3D printing and the heat bed are ready to go. We've got a start button down here. There's our nozzle temperature and bed. So let's see what happens when we click on start. It's going to go to the files, and it gives us a couple options, either to load or USB. So I do have the USB thumb drive plugged in here on the side. So let's click on that, and it looks like there is a file there, but there is nothing that's available to print. So I guess we will have to go to the computer and install the SnapMaker software so we can slice our own prints. But before we do that, let's go ahead and check out what we got here. So files is going to read our USB ports, and then we got calibration. This is going to be for the bed leveling, which we did already. Control, this is going to give us axis control, and we could also home here or individually move, and also the z-axis offset. And on the bottom we can see we're in the move, and then we got nozzle, and you can preheat it here, and also the heated bed, which can be set here. So let's go to 60 on that and 200 on the nozzle. And if we go back, we got another one with settings, and this is going to be setting up our Wi-Fi, our language. We got about the machine, terms and conditions, user preferences, firmware update, guides, 3D printing, and export log. So if we click on firmware updating, we can see it says check for updates, and it cannot because we're not connected to Wi-Fi. So I think I'm going to go ahead and connect to the Wi-Fi, as I feel like it's going to give us a lot more features like the updates and things like that. So I'm going to choose my network, enter the password, click on save. So let's go to firmware update again, check for updates. And interestingly enough, it's not really doing anything. So I have a feeling that we need to set up first in the computer, and then we can probably do a lot more things. All right, so we're at the computer, and I got the thumb drive plugged in. Let's go ahead and open it up. And the only thing we have on here is a file called loss.dir, and there is basically nothing in here. So thumb drive doesn't come with anything useful right out of the box. What we're going to need to do is go to SnapMaker.com, the official website, and download the slicer. So if we click here on software, you can see it says SnapMaker Lubon, and that's their slicer name. So here you can download for whatever operating system you're using. I'm Mac, so I'm going to click here, and we're going to save it to the computer, and that's all we need here, I think. All right, so our file downloaded. Let's go ahead and open it up, and now we need to drag to the applications, and we are installed. And now we can see it. It's in our app folder, so it's going to ask if it's okay to open it. I'm going to say yes, open, and there we go. And this is what the Lubon program looks like. So here we can see we got 3D printing, laser, CNC, and workspace. So to get started, let's go ahead and click on this 3D printing. And this is what we see. So if you've used any kind of slicer, this is kind of familiar here. We got the build platform, and to the left we got the navigation, and the right the parameters. So let's go ahead and drag something in here. We'll start with the calibration cube. So I just literally dragged it into the screen. So if you click on the cube, kind of highlights there, and you can use here to move it, clicking on the arrows, or typing in the position here. They also have a move center. And the next one over is scale, so you can drag it also to scale it larger or smaller, or you can put it in here in percentages. And then we got rotate. So yeah, these are the basic functions to the model, and also we have mirror and support. So moving to the very top up here, we can see that we can choose the material settings, and we have PLA in white. Not sure why that matters, but in any case, you choose your material here, and we have different kinds like ABS, PETG, TPU. So underneath that, we have our 4 profiles here: normal, fast print, smooth surface, and precise and strong. So depending on, you know, what kind of print you're printing, you can choose any of these 3. So we're going to stick to normal to start off with, and we can see here kind of quick overview of what normal is. Yeah, I think I'm just going to leave everything the way it is, and we'll start with that. And if you want to adjust, you know, in more detail, you click on more settings, and here you guys can see you've got quite a few things to adjust. But if you want to really adjust even more, you can go to advanced or all. So advanced is going to give you quite a bit more to play with, and then all is going to give you even more. So, and it's all broken down here in the different structures. So yeah, depending on how well you are informed with all this, and it'll take a bit to learn, but this is where you adjust your profile. So we're just going to leave everything the way it is and print our first prints here with normal. So on the bottom here it says generate G-code. If we click that, it's going to slice the model, and here it kind of shows us the preview of all of the layers, and you can drag this thing up and down to see, and the color codes there show you what parts of the print it is. So if you're happy with everything, you're going to click on export, and you're going to have 2 options: export G-code to file and load G-code to workspace. So I guess let's try the load to workspace. This is what we get, and it tells us here all the parameters, how long it's going to take and things like that, and the material amount. So this is a preview. Let's cancel that. Okay, so this is our connection to the computer. Here on the left we can see that we can connect with serial port, which is with the USB cable, or Wi-Fi, which we did connect the printer to, so we should be able to find it, and sure enough it comes up here. So let's click on the connect, and it says screen authorization needed. So now we're going to go back to the printer and click on yes to connect, and now it says connected, and here it says that we can disconnect also from the screen. And back to the computer, it says that it needs to home, so we're going to okay that. And so now we're going to be controlling the printer here from the computer through Wi-Fi. So it's going up for the home. Here it wants us to select the kind of printer we have, which is the SnapMaker A350. We're going to highlight that, and then it's going to ask us which tool head's attached. We're going to click on 3D printing and select. So now we should be connected and be able to print our little cube here. So under G-code files here, we can see that we have a work file made here to do this print. And we have a couple choices here: send to device or start on Lubon. So since we're connected to Wi-Fi, we can start it right here. So let's go ahead and click that and see what happens. And sure enough, there it goes. So looks like our printer is doing something over there. Okay, so it's gonna preheat, looks like. And our Z is coming down. And now we wait till we preheat. So back to the computer here on the left, under 3D printing here, the nozzle temperature, which we're almost at our target. And then our heated bed temperature is at 34 right now. It needs to go all the way to 70. And here we have the work speed at 100%. And then on the very bottom, we have a left Z offset. Not too sure what left means. I'm guessing this means you can, go a little up or a little down if you need to. And you can choose your increments here from 0.05, 0.1, or 0.2. So if you, are too close to the bed, you can adjust it here straight from the computer to go up a little or down a little. And on the screen here, we can also see nozzle and bed temperatures, which we are at 60 now. Yeah, it looks like we can't do anything from here. We only have this large disconnect button. And at this state, everything is controlled through the computer. All right, so it looks like we're heated up and it's starting to print. Okay, well that's great. And our offset looks pretty good too. And so our job status is on the right side here. File name, the time passed, time remaining, 1 hour and 7 minutes. And then the G-code line here at 1% finished with a progress circle here. So yeah, and you can pause it, stop it, and that's pretty much it. And down here we have X, Y, and Z positions. So if we click on back, we could actually go back to our slicer. Let's see if we double click, cut maybe. Okay, yeah, so cut deletes that file that we just sliced. And let's go ahead and throw in a benchy in here. And it's asking us to repair the model. I guess we'll let it do that. And we're gonna slice this little benchy exactly the same way as we did the cube. So we'll click on generate G-code here. And we can see the layers on this. So we can choose two things, either to workspace or the G-code file. So if you wanna just save it to your computer or the thumb drive, but I'm gonna go ahead and export this to the workspace again. And we can send it to the device from here, but I'm going to cancel because it's right here. And once our cube finishes, we can do our benchy also from here. So you can, load multiple workspaces into here and then start them. So since we started the cube, that's in progress. And then after that, we can start the benchy too. So yeah, it seems pretty intuitive overall. There's some figuring out to do here and there. If you click on home, you can start here from the beginning. You can choose what you want to do. So we're going to print these out and see what they turn out like. Alright, so we printed out the calibration cube and the benchy, and they both turned out okay. So let's take a closer look at the cube, and yeah, it looks really good. Only thing is, we were too close to the bed, and we kind of got an elephant foot here. The bottom looks nice. So this is our x-axis, and you guys can see the layers do sit pretty good. There was a bit of under extrusion here and there, but other than that, yeah. Nothing weird, no ghosting, no artifacts really. And this is in normal mode, so yeah, you guys can see the under extrusion there. Not too sure what that was all about, but yeah. So except for some of these gaps, the cube actually looks really nice. Now I think adjusting the parameters of the print profile would help greatly, as this is what you get if you don't adjust nothing. So the benchy's still stuck to the plate. It's completely cooled off. Let's see how easy it comes off. And look at that, pretty easy. So yeah, it looks like this thing sticks when it's hot and pops right off when it cools off. And if your build plate is still hot, you can pull it off real quick, set it on the table, it'll cool down really fast and then pop the print off. So for the benchy, I added more offset before I started printing it, and you guys can see we practically don't have an elephant foot. Maybe a super tiny one, but that's what our bottom looks like. The sides. And this did take over 3 hours, so it doesn't look as good as I would hope, as we still have some kind of under extrusion or something. But it's not awful or anything, it's just not perfect, I guess. So we got good cooling. And if we go to the very top, you probably guys noticed that we had pauses there, these blobs. Pretty sure that has to do with the parameter settings, where if it's doing a single layer of a certain time, it has to pause for that time. So again, I would like to see a little better performance from the provided stock profiles, but obviously all that is adjustable and you can set the parameters yourself, and you probably should to get the best results. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to print some more stuff with different filaments. Because we do have a direct drive extruder, we can try some TPU, and maybe I'll try something hotter like ABS and see how that goes. Alright, so I am printing and everything is going good, but I got this message again saying that we need to update the firmware. So let's go ahead and see if we can do that. And we're going to swipe across, go to settings, and sure enough we have firmware update, and there's actually a little new icon next to it, and you guys can see that it's ready to be downloaded. So this wasn't available in the beginning. I'm guessing once the computer is connected to the Wi-Fi, it eventually gets what it needs and also knows that it needs to update. So let's click on this button here. And there we go. So we got a progress bar of it downloading the update. So yeah, guys, I'm really impressed with the navigation and just this screen here in general. It's quite intuitive and very nice to use. Alright, so that didn't take long. So now it says update now on the button. Let's click it. Alright, well that was pretty quick. Well, at least for the progress circle, as it's taken a little while here to finish up. Okay, I heard some sounds. It sounded like it restarted. And we got another progress bar. Okay, so it's updating the main controller now. So there's actually a couple updates in one. Okay, now updating the touchscreen. And there we go, update successful. Click complete, and looks like we're ready to go. So for the next part, let's go ahead and print from the included thumb drive. So I sliced a file and put it in here from the computer. And so this is how you would manually do it. You would plug it in here on the side in the control board. It actually said USB detected. Now if you do go to the main menu, you can click on start and that'll read it. Well, actually it will read the internal saved files, but you can click on USB here and you guys can see we have a few there. So I'm going to click on this ABS drift wheels. And we're going to try to print some ABS, and it looks like it's parsing the file, and once it's done with that, then we're going to click start, and there it goes. So it tells us all the information, how long it's going to take. So we'll click on start. By the way, you could adjust the settings also. Okay, so apparently our calibration did reset, and it's warning us that we need to do that before we start our print. So let's click on calibrate, and we will do that then. And we've seen this earlier, guys. Pretty simple. It's going to take its measurements, and then we're going to set the offset. So the firmware update did reset everything. Alright, so now we just need to set the gap where it slightly rubs. So once you're happy with that, I'm going to click complete, and it's going to home again. And it actually goes back to the printing, which is really cool. So yeah, this thing is quite smart and actually starts it. Again, the software is quite polished, and you guys can see we're actually going to heat up to 75 on the bed, which is quite hot for this large bed. I believe the maximum recommendation would be 80. I know it does go a little higher, but it probably will take forever. It is warming up, but it's gonna take a while, and I'll let you guys see how long it's gonna take as we have a minute here started. And you guys hopefully can see here, it's about 4 minutes to get to 60 on the bed. Yeah, well, exactly 4 minutes. So yeah, a very large bed and takes a while to heat up, but honestly that's not too bad for 60, and 75 is probably gonna take quite a bit longer. So to 70 it's 6 minutes and 30 seconds, about there. And our nozzle is now preheating, and the bed is almost 75 there, 74, and we are at 8 minutes. So yeah, about 8 minutes to preheat the bed, and now our nozzle is going to go to 260 and it'll start printing. Alright, so about 10 minutes later, well actually almost 11, we are now finally moving, and I'm going to swipe over so we can control our Z-axis offset here, and I'm going to have it on 0.1 millimeters so I can move a decent amount if I need to. It actually looks really good. It might need to go down just a little. I'm going to go to 0.05 here. Go down 1. Yeah, definitely need to go down just a little more. Okay, it seems to be not sticking at the moment. And there we go. Yeah, probably down just a little more. Okay, that's pretty good right there. I'll go down one more just in case. Okay, yeah, that seems about right. So yeah, you will need to fine tune it when you start, obviously, but it's quite easy to adjust it here. So if you're close, go to 0.05 and go up and down from there. But if you're pretty far away, you can, choose the 0.1 there. So here's all of our adjustments, which are nozzle temperature, and you get this kind of cool bar that you move around and it changes it to that. So same thing for the heated bed. And then our Z-axis offset, and then we can also control the work speed, which is the speed of the printer, and you can control that in percentages. So yeah, pretty simple and quite intuitive, and we are printing ABS, which is quite impressive. Alright, so we printed out a few prints, and overall I'll have to say it's a very good printer, considering this is not the only thing it does. Definitely the large build plate could be a plus or minus, depending on how you look at that. And even though the steel sheet does work good, and the build material on there, it is prone to be less tacky than other materials. So we've seen the first benchy and the cube. Those were that great, so I reprinted them again. And if we look at the cube now, you guys can see that it actually looks much better. Yeah, very clean lines. And this is also 50 millimeters a second. Look at the Y. Beautiful. The X wall and the Y wall. So yeah, the bottom looks good and the top also looks great. So again, you know, if it's sliced good, it's going to print even better. And this benchy here will say it all. You guys can see. Well, let's start here from the bottom. So bottom looks good. And look at those walls. I can get the right angle here. There we go. Very nice. So yeah, nothing weird. No ghosting, no layering or anything. If you guys kind of see the lines, that's just the reflections. If you really look at it like this, you can see how nice the print's sitting. Excellent walls. Practically no vibrations. And very low sagging on the windows, and even on the very back we can see it says 3D benchy. So yeah, excellent print, definitely above average. So the printer can print well, but you do need to adjust the slicing somewhat here and there. So the next print is this little rocket, and this was printed in TPU, and not only that, in spiralized mode. So this is a very thin print, and you guys can see the bottom. I ripped the whole bottom off, so it was stuck pretty well to the build plate, and I accidentally ripped it, so I just decided to take the whole thing off. But this shows you how this printer can very nicely put the layers down in TPU, and this is really soft TPU. I mean, it's like ultra soft, so we can bend this thing into just a ball right here and it'll just bounce right back. So yeah, it kind of had a little trouble here because it's so thin and it's in spiralized mode, but it printed it out and we can see how smooth the layers went down on the upper portion here. So yeah, excellent print, and does very well with TPU and no problems with spiralized mode. So for the last prints, we got these wheels, and what's great about this is that it's printed in ABS, and you guys can see again the layers are very nice. So we had pretty hot 75 on the bed and 260 on the nozzle, and yeah, this is what came out. Actually a very nice print, and we still have the supports under there. Let's go ahead and see if we can break it loose. And look at that, perfect. So yeah, it does the job on hotter filaments like ABS. But one thing I did notice is that it doesn't stick as easy because we can't heat up the build plate as much. Yeah, I wouldn't count on printing ABS too much on this printer, but you can obviously. And maybe using glue stick for the print to stick better will help with the overall experience. But yeah, with that said, everything printed out well and I'm quite happy with the performance. The only few things to note is that the fans do run somewhat audible, especially when you start really preheating. The power supply over there gets louder and louder. And what's interesting is that even in idle mode, the power supply never turns off. It always idles, so you know, that's plus or minus, I guess. Another thing is that you can hear the stepper motors inside. They're definitely not loud by any means. Another thing that could be a big deal, maybe not, is that when this whole thing goes up, since this is its home position, it tends to unravel the filament and it could jump over, which it almost is right now, and then get all tangled up. So yeah, that's the only problem here with this kind of setup, is that because it has to travel all the way from here up, all of that extra filament kind of just unravels on the spool and could pop off. And another thing, I don't know if I mentioned or not, but if you open this cap, right here on the very top, that block, that first piece of metal you see, that's actually a filament detector. And if we pull out the filament, there's a little click there when it goes in. So yeah, it does have filament detection, which is great. And because we have more functions to check out, we're going to leave it at this for 3D printing and go to the laser next. So in the guide, we got a whole section about laser, and you guys can see we got to change the tool head and also the build platform, which is pretty straightforward. And it kind of goes through the process there, and also calibrating your focal point and things like that. So yeah, we're gonna go through all the steps here. So first things first, let's remove this filament, put it out of the way. We'll grab our included screwdriver, slowly push this over so we can get to the back of it. And there are 4 bolts that you guys can't see, but obviously quite simple. It would have been pretty cool if they had some kind of like latching system where the heads would latch onto the rail, but for now we have to deal with unbolting it. And before you do that, you probably want to go ahead and unplug it also. But yeah, simple as that. Our 3D printing tool head is off, and now we can install the laser the same way. So because the laser doesn't do any actual work, it's just a light, I'm just going to use 2 bolts, and it's very sturdy. So you can choose to put all of them in if you want. And now we can plug it in. it doesn't take more than a minute or so to change the tool head. Now the thing that will probably take a bit longer to change would be the platform. So let's pull these prints off. The build plate itself, which is magnetic. And now we got a bunch of bolts that we have to undo to completely remove the heated bed. So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug it here and take out all these little bolts. All right, that should be our last bolt. And the platform comes right off, and you guys can see the frame underneath. So now we're gonna grab our aluminum pieces that are part of the bed for the laser. So there's two channels that have a little like cutout, half a hole, and those actually combine together like that to make a full hole, and they will go towards the center, and the ones with 4 holes will go to the side. And you'll see how it all lines up once you get them in the right position. So they all do go together. You just have to make sure you orientate them right, and also the half holes are right in the middle. And so now we need to grab our M410 hex bolts, and the reason we're changing them is because we have a flat bottom. As you guys can see, this is the bolts we had in the 3D printing heated bed. So they're like tapered, but these are flat, so you need the flat ones, which again are M410s. And so now we're just going to install 14 of these bolts into the lasering platform. So yeah guys, as you can see, this is quite involved going from one tool head to another. Now the reason you would do all this is because you would be doing some major cutting, as you need this platform for that, because the laser has to fall through something, and that's why the bed is the way it is. So if you're just going to do some, minor engravement, you can just probably do this on any surface, but for anything more serious, you will need to install this build plate. So you want to do the middle last because of the 2 halves. So I've done this side, I'm going to go to that side now. And putting all these bolts in makes me think that having a little electric screwdriver that's powered would be much more quicker than doing it by hand. But again, it doesn't take that long, maybe about 5 to 8 minutes to do all of this. So all right, and that's all of our bolts, and our bed is installed. So let's turn the machine on. And right away it knows that we have the laser plugged in. So let's check out what it says here. So there's some safety instructions. So once you understand everything, click on got it. So the next step, it says to measure the thickness of the material and then secure it down onto the platform. And so we do have a couple of these sample pieces of plywood here. It looks like about a couple of millimeters. So in the manual, it shows you it's like these little silicone plug things, and I cannot find mine, so I'm not sure if I'm missing them or I just can't see them. But in any case, we'll continue without it. Let's click on next. So now it wants us to set the thickness of the material that we're working on. And in the manual, it does say that this piece here is 1.5 millimeters. So let's go ahead and set that to 1.5. And then we'll click save. So for the next part, it says the machine needs to know the height of the laser. So let's click next. So you guys can't see this, but the head on the top is homing. And now going down. Alright, so it stopped pretty close to the working platform. And here it says that we need to lower the laser down to the surface, and that's gonna automatically kind of know where it needs to be. So let's go ahead and start going down. So I'm gonna click on the 10 millimeter here, but be careful, there's not much room here. I don't even know if I have 10 millimeters there. Well, let's try it. Okay, yeah, that was too much. So yeah, what we're trying to do is gently or ever so slightly just touch or be very close to the material that we're working on. So if you're happy with where you are, I'm gonna click next. So now it reminds us that we need to wear our goggles. So go ahead and put those on. And this is gonna protect you from the laser light. So now we're gonna set the work origin, so where the laser starts. Let's click on next. And a light came on and also a fan on the head, and we have a new menu here that says set work origin. So from here you can move the laser where you want it to start. So we're gonna go right off the middle, but if you do want to move it to like a corner, that's where you do it here. So I guess let's click on next. Okay, so now the machine is gonna do auto focusing, and basically what it's gonna do is gonna burn some lines in and then use the camera, I presume, to figure out what focus it needs. So let's go ahead and run that. Make sure you're wearing your glasses. And there it goes. So it's burning some lines into the board, and it's going higher and higher on the Z-axis here. Let me zoom you guys in a bit more. Okay, it's processing. So it's going up to look at it. And it says you have completed autofocus successfully. So yeah, really cool, as it automatically adjusts how high it needs to be according to this test here. All right, so let's click complete. So for next part, it wants to calibrate the camera that's on the laser head. So let's click on next. And it wants to use a white sheet of paper. And I'm just going to use this printing paper here. That should be good. We'll click on next. And it looks like it's going to run another test for the camera calibration. You guys might not be able to see that. It's way too bright on the camera. See if I can darken it up a bit. So it's drawing a line, or like a box, I guess. I don't know what this picture is showing here. Okay, so it's not a box, it's lines. Alright, so I guess it's taking photos and processing them, and we're at 2 out of 4. Alright, looks like it's done. We'll click on complete, and it says, awesome, you have completed the initial setup for the laser. Now you can prepare a G-code file using SnapMaker Lubon to start a laser job. Got it. And again, looks like we need an update for the laser function. So let's click on update, and it's already updating. Wow, that was quick. I'm gonna remove this, and you guys see how it kind of cut it, and I guess it was going off of this to calibrate the camera. All right, we're at 100% for the firmware update. Sounds like the machine restarted. Now it's updating the controller. Yeah, it's quite amazing how flawlessly this thing works. So connecting it to the Wi-Fi definitely makes a lot of sense. Not only to control it straight from the Lubon software, but also for the updates and whatnot else that the printer needs. All right, we are successful. We'll click on complete, and looks like we are done. And this is our main menu. And we can see here on the screen that we have the laser in green and also camera green. So everything is good to go. And our laser height is 21 millimeters. All right, so we got the software open. Let's click on a laser, and then there's gonna be 3 and 4 axes. We're doing the 3 axes. So 4 axes is like if you have something round, this is where you would use this, but we're gonna use the 3 axes. And so here it wants us to confirm the work size. So I'm guessing this is the correct platform, and also origin is at center. So we'll confirm that, and we can see our workspace here. So let's go ahead and open up this gift box as our first project. Now I'm not sure if this is the whole build volume or, okay, yes, it says 190 by 190 is the size of the project. It's gonna choose us which process, and I'm guessing vector is probably the way to go. Okay, so yeah, so depending on what you're doing, either you're cutting or you are like lasering an image in, it'll be these different types. So we're gonna stick with vector and go next here on the bottom. So next thing we need to do is create a tool path. So we are cutting 1.5 millimeters, yes. On the path, jog speed, the work speed, and number of passes too should be enough. And the laser power is at 100. So we'll save this. And now we can generate the G-code down here. So now that it's sliced, we can export it. So we can either send it to our workspace or put it on a card. So for this one, we'll put it on the thumb drive. And you guys can see the file name. I'm just gonna save it to my desktop and then throw it into the thumb drive, which is right here. Yeah, simple as that, guys. Now we can take it to the machine. All right, so I got the thumb drive. Let's plug it in. It's detected. We'll click on start, USB, and we can see our giftbox.svg file that we made for this job. So let's click on that. And here it's showing us the preview. It's gonna take 35 minutes and 5 seconds. And you can adjust your settings from here. So if we're ready, we're gonna click on ready. So here it's asking us if we want to choose auto mode, which will calibrate the laser distance on its own using, I guess, its camera and whatever other functions it has to know that, or you can manually set it. So let's click on auto, as that would be very simple. Again, we're going to set the thickness here. Okay, use goggles. So if that origin looks good, we're going to click on start, which is the middle, and there it goes. And this is the screen we get while it's lasering, which we have a progress bar there. It says 33 minutes remaining. Our file name, laser power, work speed is 140 millimeters a second. And we got a pause and stop button. And also the elapsed time, 30 seconds. So yeah, it looks like it's cutting away. Looking really good. All right, so the project is done and our laser moves up out of the way all the way to the top. It took 35 minutes and 36 seconds. We'll click complete and goes back to the main menu. So let's see what we got here. So it looks like the laser completely cut through these pieces. And what I noticed with this kind of bed is that whenever it's cutting, it has a lot of airflow because of these fins. And so like the smoke and stuff kind of like just goes out the bottom, which is pretty cool. But let's see how it did, and you guys can see all the pieces are coming off real easy. So yeah, for this 1.5 millimeter board that we had, did a really good job with the settings that they recommended. So it looks like this is some kind of box or something, and I'm not sure if we're gonna figure out how all this goes, but technically it shouldn't be too hard, but you never know with these projects. So I didn't really look this thing up and how it's supposed to go together, so I'm probably gonna not do it right here. But then again, I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess it's like a little box with a lid on top, and I think it'd be pretty cool to maybe engrave something on the side of it here as a test. So maybe we'll do that real quick. Alright, so I used the text in the slicer. We burnt this just print into the side of the box. And by the way, this is how the top goes. There's a smaller hole in the larger one. So the ones with the taller cutouts is where it goes up. And you put that and the lid goes here. So it's like a little storage box. And we have just print on here, which is my other channel that's dedicated just for 3D printing. So yeah, very cool. I think for the next part, we should move to the CNC, as that's probably the most intimidating, at least for me, as I'm very unfamiliar with it. But so far with this machine, it seems like everything is very well navigated through the screen here and makes a lot of sense. And they also include the projects to get you started. And once you start doing it, it kind of starts to make sense of how to operate everything. All right, so I quickly changed the head and the work platform. There are quite a bit of little bolts to put in, but it wasn't that big of a deal, honestly. And I went ahead and powered up the machine, and this is the screen that we got. So when you change the heads, it automatically knows what head that you're on. So in the manual, we got the CNC carving section, and here it goes through how to change the head, and then also the work platform. And then it goes into explaining how to fasten the material to the bed and how to get started on your first carve and what bits to use. So they included this black kind of like a plexiglass sample material that we can use. I'm gonna actually leave one of the sides on, and we're gonna clamp it down to the bed. And the way you do that is with this kit here, which are like these little arms, or actually pretty big arms, that'll kind of go on each corner that hold the material down. And we also have these little spacers that are kind of half round that we're going to use. And the hardware is this M470 bag, which consists of a long bolt with a little wing nut on it. And so the way we're going to do this is pretty simple. We're going to grab one of the arms, and we're going to set this adapter here on top, and we're going to run our nut just a little bit there. So we're going to go through the little spacer and then through here like this. So hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, you can slide over to any of the positions. And in our platform, we got a lot of mounting points. So we're going to kind of try to center this up and choose one. But yeah, we're just going to screw the bolt first into the platform just to get into the threads. And then we can tighten the wing nut to put pressure down. But make sure you go down enough so you get a good grip. So we started this one here. We can do this one. But yeah, you guys can see it's not that hard to figure it out. And just like I said earlier, once you start doing it, it all kind of makes sense. All right, so that looks pretty good. So now I'm just going to go around and tighten the wing nuts to clamp this piece down, and now it's not going anywhere. So you want to take extra care to do this and make sure you secure the material that you're going to engrave into very good, because with CNC it's quite important as there's a lot of vibrations and pressure in cutting material. So we have two bits to use, a rounded one and kind of like a flat edge, and then here it shows us kind of how to secure the chuck and make sure it doesn't go kind of crooked. Kind of goes a little more detail here how to do that. So let's grab the little nut, and they're actually shrink wrapped. And the reason for that is because they're oily, very nice quality parts. So the thicker part goes inside the nut like this. And this is what we see on the other end. And what we're going to do is we're going to literally go right into the main shaft here and start tightening this up. So we're just going to start it. And now we need to get one of the bits, and we're going to use the flat one. So we got ball end and flat. So they just open up, and this is what the bit looks like. So we're going to grab it. Be careful not to poke yourself, but it's going to kind of squeeze in there, and you might have to kind of wiggle it around to get it in there. But you want to try to go in there as deep as you can. If you have to, loosen the nut more, or all the way almost, and it's going to go in there until you can feel it stop. Then what you want to do is tighten the nut, and that will hold it. And then these two wrenches that I didn't know what were for are for this right here. So the 17 will go to the nut, and the 14 will go right here on the flat spot on the shaft where you hold it, and we're going to turn the nut. So you just want to tighten this up reasonably good. Don't go crazy, but make sure it's tight. So right when you feel resistance, like decent amount of it, stop. And that is it. So we got our tip in and our material clamped down to the platform. So on the screen, this is what it starts with. We got safety instructions. Let's get started. So it's telling us to wear goggles, which I have them ready right here. And click next. So we have fixed the material to the platform. Next, we installed our bit, and I guess we're done. And there's also a firmware update for the CNC module. So let's update that. All right, and it's updated. So let's click on complete, and we have the start menu, which comes up as CNC with a green little dot, meaning everything's good to go. The only thing I'm a little worried about is that maybe when this starts cutting, it's going to go into the platform and cut the platform. So I think I want to go ahead and put the spacer, or better yet, this one that we used earlier, to kind of give us a little bit of breathing room underneath. So I'm not sure if this is gonna mess us up or not. I'm just trying to preserve the platform from not getting ruined, since I'm not too confident in what I'm doing here. But this should be a pretty quick exchange. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. It's still super solid, and it'll give us a little buffer underneath just in case it goes too deep or whatnot else. So just trying to take a little extra precaution. So for the next part, let's jump to the program and generate a project for the CNC. All right, so we're back at the computer. We got the Lubon software at the home page. We're gonna click on CNC 3 axes, and it can do 4 also. Asking about our last project, we'll cancel that. So the job setup, everything looks correct, confirm. So let's bring in a file, which if we click on home, there was one here. Here we go, CNC phone holder. So we'll click on that, and it goes into our project. So you can modify it here with the options on the left here, and also edit a few things here. So let's click on next. So I had to click on here to get our options here, but yeah, it looks like we have flat mill 1.5 and all of the parameters here. Hopefully they are all correct. So if we click on create toolpath, you can see the settings. I think we already have everything we need, as there is a toolpath already in the list. So yeah, and if we click more on here, we can see that's our toolpath, all the parameters, and you can actually change this from the flat to the ball end, is the 2 we have, but we're gonna keep this the way everything is. Yeah, the target depth, you guys can see, is 3.2 millimeters, and there's gonna be, looks like, quite a few step downs of 0.5 millimeters. But in any case, I'm gonna click on cancel here so we don't change anything. And yeah, we're pretty much ready to generate the code. This is the project here, and so it's going to be centered on our material that we put in, that black sheet. So let's generate the code, and this is what it generates. You can actually click on simulation here, and we can kind of see a simulated cut that it's going to do. So we can also move this around and see. And if we zoom in, you guys can see we have quite a few steps here on the way down. But I'm sure I'm probably missing a few things here and not saying everything correctly, as I'm not an expert in this CNC stuff. But in any case, all we got to do now is export our project. So we're going to click on export, and we're going to load it to workspace, because we'll send it to our machine from here. And we can see this is the preview. So let's exit out of here. We do need to connect again, so I'm going to do that. All right, it wants to home. So the machine is home and connected. We can see here, we got CNC, and we can click on our new project, wherever it is. There we go, phone holder, the very top. So you can start it from here or send it to the device, and that's what I'm gonna do. All right, so it's sent, and that's it. Now our machine has the file ready to go. So I'm gonna disconnect from the software. And that's pretty much it, guys. So we'll go back to the SnapMaker and start our carving. All right, so it homed, and we should have our new file in here. So we're gonna click on start. And sure enough, there it says phone holder CNC. So we'll click on that. And I'm guessing we click on ready. So it reminds us to wear our safety goggles, which I'm gonna go ahead and put on. And you definitely wanna wear them because there will be stuff flying around. So let's click on next. Let's see if we can go to work origin. Okay, so I'm not sure which work origin this is, but I clicked on go to work origin. I'm a little nervous that it's gonna go too deep maybe, or too low. So I'm gonna get ready to stop it just in case. All right, so I didn't have to stop it. It's literally stopped right above it, a few millimeters. What we need to do now is fine tune the tip to the top of our material. And we're gonna use this calibration card to set our gap. And so what we want is to get as close as possible to the material. So we're on 1 millimeter right now. I'm gonna go down with the offset. And you guys saw that went down quite a bit. So I'm gonna change to 0.01, well actually 0.1. And we can kind of feel it. Oh, so it grabbed. So once it grabbed, I'm gonna go up 1. And that should be good right there. So now we can click on set work origin. And that also does appear to be completely the center of our platform. Maybe not exactly center, but I think for this project it's good enough. And if you're unsure, you can run the boundaries to see where the bit will go. So let's do that so you guys can see. It's going to run around where it needs to go. And it was a little close to that arm right there. So this is a little bit nerve-wracking, honestly. And maybe if you're, confused or not too sure, maybe don't install the bit until you got everything perfectly aligned. It wouldn't be too hard to break that thing off if it hit something. All right, so let's zoom in here a bit so we can see better. And so if everything looks good here, which it does, we're gonna click on start. Make sure you're wearing your goggles and maybe keep your area somewhat open because I think there might be some stuff flying around. But in any case, let's go ahead and go for it. And there it goes. And it made a little cut on that corner there. There it goes. So it's cutting away. And it is making a mess. Things going everywhere. And you guys can probably hear it cutting. So on the screen you have the progress here. Pause, stop. RPM is 11,000. That's the work speed. And the time passed. And we have remaining 33 minutes. And if we swipe over, we can control our work speed here. So you can actually slow it down if you need to. Maybe slow it down a bit. Let's see if we can slow it down. Okay, so when you slow it down, the bit doesn't slow down. It's just the process or the speed it moves. It did get a little quieter, so I think maybe it's good that it's slower. Yeah, it seems a little more happy at 70% than it was at 100. So it's gonna leave it at that, I guess. And you probably should get a little vacuum ready to vacuum all this stuff up. But surprisingly, it's not going too far as the bed is large, so it's kind of all landing around here. There's a few chunks here and there, but no big deal. So yeah, we'll let it cut. I might vacuum it as it's cutting here and there just to keep it clean so we can see what it's doing. But yeah, we got it going and everything looks good. Alright, so it is finished and we got quite a bit of a mess here. So let's go ahead and vacuum it up. But what I'm seeing is I think we got into the wood because I see the top shavings here look a little different. Which if that's the case, I'm glad we put that little buffer underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and clean all this up. There's dust everywhere. And also on the tool head too, it's a bunch of it stuck around it. So yeah, we're going to clean this up real quick. Alright, that should be good for now. And yeah, looks like we did cut all the way through, and you'll see that, guys, in a second. But only thing is, I noticed that I did make a mistake. This arm here was a little too close to the tool head, and it actually butted into this bolt. I didn't cut all the way through here on this edge, which I think what I should have done is probably grabbed it maybe a little different or something where this bolt was more farther back. That did happen, and you got to be really careful with CNC as it's pretty brutal if you get something wrong, as you can have quite a bit of damage. So lifting this thing up, we can see that it was cut through all the way, which is good that we put this thing here. So it kind of saved us a bit without cutting our platform. And you guys can see on this corner here where it kind of jumped over this bolt with the tool head, causing it not to cut all the way through. So not a big deal, but definitely need to be more careful next time. Yeah, looks like this is some kind of phone holder, and it should just kind of come apart quite easy. And we still need to take off the protective layer on the other side. But yeah, it should just kind of pop out. Except for that part where it didn't cut too well, but it still breaks off pretty easily. And yeah, that's all of our pieces. Let's go ahead and peel the back here. And you could use like a knife to clean up the little high points and things like that. But yeah, overall, looks like we have a success. And again, I'm not sure how this thing goes. Actually, I think these little pieces need to come out. And using these snippers are the easiest way to break them loose. And I believe it goes, these slots here slot into like kind of cross pattern. And then this piece goes right here and it clicks it all together. I guess like that. So yeah, you can put your phone or even a tablet or something right in here or you can flip it around and set it like that. So kind of works both ways, I guess. Maybe we can try it with this display. And look at that, pretty cool. So yeah, probably, you know, not the most useful thing you could make, but it was made here on the SnapMaker. So yeah, overall guys, I think this is an incredible machine that's very good at 3 different jobs, which include 3D printing, laser engraving or cutting, and also CNC carving. The integration with the Lubon software is very good. You can prep your work, send it to the machine, or activate it straight from the computer. The whole build and the construction of this machine is incredible with these modules that control everything, and they are all sealed, so they're perfect for using the CNC. I love the 3 different work platforms that it comes with, and just the overall experience is bar none, at least for me, with all the printers and machines that I've seen so far. And with that said, this is probably not for everyone, and some of you out there are probably more inclined to have 3 separate dedicated machines that do separate things. But as far as 3-in-1 packages go, this is definitely the best one by far. And not to mention that you can have it all in a pretty confined space, considering the work volume that we have. So if you guys are interested in the SnapMaker 2.0, I'm going to have some links in the description. Check it out. They do have a smaller version of this same exact setup. And also they do have just a 3D printing version if that's all you want, which could be a great option also. And if you guys did enjoy this video, then hit that like button. If you do like videos like this, stay tuned. I got more 3D printing videos coming up. And also check out the 3D printing playlist. I'm sure you'll find something interesting there. Also guys, I would really appreciate it if you checked out my new channel called Just Print, where eventually all my 3D printing videos will be at. So if you made it this far, big thumbs up to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.